imagine a man just sweating profusely in this faded heavy metal t-shirt.
Yeah, totally out of place.
Right. He's standing in a room that is completely packed with, polished diplomats and the international press.
Just a sea of suits.
Exactly. And he is severely stuttering, just clutching this crumpled, dog-eared piece of paper.
Like a nervous kid.
Yeah. He steps right up to a microphone, looks directly at the Dalai Lama, like the spiritual leader of Tibet, right?
Right.
And he loudly delivers a punchline based entirely on a 1960s Broadway musical.
It's so surreal to even picture.
It really is. But now, I want you to imagine that exact same man, decades later. He picks up a telephone, bypasses the most secure communication switchboard on the planet, and successfully prank calls the President of the United States.
Well, he's flying on Air Force One, no less.
Yes, on Air Force One. Today, we are unpacking the completely impossible, contradictory, and honestly just chaotic career of a man who managed to do both of those things.
It is a trajectory that, it defies almost every conventional rule of the entertainment industry.
Oh, completely.
When you analyze the media landscape spanning the last, say, 40 years, you rarely find a single individual who has served as a primary antagonist in the Wild West of 1990s shock radio.
Yeah, that whole era.
And then becomes a highly paid pawn in the incredibly sterile corporate wars of late-night network television.
And then pivots again.
Exactly. Finally becoming this fiercely litigious participant in the decentralized, hyper-ironic, modern internet we have today.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We have a massive stack of sources on the table today, folks. We're talking biographical data, late-night television histories, complex federal copyright rulings, and even internet sociology papers.
It is quite a stack.
And they all center around John Melendez, who is known to millions as Stuttering John.
Right.
And for the learner listening right now, our mission today is to trace this chronological journey. We are looking at a man who took a childhood vulnerability, forged it into an offensive weapon, and used it to infiltrate entirely different mediums of entertainment.
The shifts between those mediums are really what make this so compelling to look at.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, this isn't just a biography. It is a real-time stress test of American media culture. Every single time Melendez changed jobs, he exposed the hidden economics, the underlying psychology, and honestly, the absolute ruthlessness of the platforms he was operating within.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how he broke the machine, we really have to understand the armor he was wearing.
Right, where it all started.
Yeah, and that armor was forged in Massapequa, New York, out on Long Island, starting in 1965.
Which is where he grew up.
Exactly. John Melendez is born to a Puerto Rican father and a Danish mother, but the sources are very, very clear about one specific detail here.
Yeah, this is crucial.
He was not born with a stutter.
No, he wasn't.
It did not appear until the second grade. It began as a trauma response, actually, after witnessing a severe argument between his parents, which was then followed by ongoing psychological mistreatment from his father.
What's fascinating here is the mechanics of trauma-induced speech impediments.
Right. How does that actually work?
Well, in many developmental psychology frameworks, a stutter that manifests suddenly in early childhood is often a physical manifestation of an environment where the child feels their voice is dangerous.
Like it's not safe to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is literally a subconscious interruption of the self. The brain is trying to express a thought, and the nervous system, which has been conditioned by fear or trauma, throws up a physical roadblock.
Wow.
You are caught between the desperate need to speak and the absolute terror of being heard.
I have to imagine that growing up on Long Island in the 1970s and 80s with a severe trauma-induced stutter is essentially painting a giant target on your own back.
Oh, absolutely brutal.
The sources note he was relentlessly bullied, but here is what I don't quite understand. Usually when someone is targeted like that, they retreat, right?
Yeah, they become invisible. They try to hide.
But John does the exact opposite. He graduates high school in 1983, goes to NYU Film School, and joins a rock band called Rockslide.
Yeah, he's a front man.
Right.
Okay.
He is thrusting himself onto stages.
It is a fascinating counterphobic response.
Counterphobic?
Yeah, so if the stutter is a manifestation of powerlessness, grabbing a microphone and fronting a rock band is an attempt to reclaim that power.
Oh.
He's forcing people to look at him and listen to him on his own terms. He is trying to override the trauma through pure performance.
Which perfectly sets the stage for 1988. This is the moment everything pivots.
Break.
Yeah. John's college roommate is a guy named Mitch Fattel. And Mitch actually goes on to become a very successful stand-up comedian himself.
Right, a well-known comic.
But at the time, Mitch is doing an internship at the Howard Stern show.
Which is already huge.
Huge. Howard Stern is a massive regional force in New York, actively building this chaotic, boundary-pushing radio empire.
Yep.
So Mitch is about to leave his internship, and John asks him to recommend him for the gig.
And this specific moment reveals the underlying, almost predatory genius of early shock radio.
Huh.
Well, Mitch goes to the show's producer, Gary Delabate, and Gary mentions to Howard Stern that they have a candidate for the internship, but he warns him that the kid has a severe stutter.
And Stern doesn't ask for a resume.
Nope.
He doesn't conduct an interview. The sources say the moment he hears the word stutter, he hires him sight unseen.
Just like that.
That sounds almost cartoonishly opportunistic.
Because it was. I mean, Howard Stern was pioneering a completely new aesthetic in broadcast. He was building what he called the whack pack.
Right.
It was this rotating cast of characters defined by distinct, often marginalized physical, mental, or vocal characteristics.
Yeah, a real carnival atmosphere.
But the mechanism of the show wasn't just to mock these people in a vacuum. Stern weaponized them.
Weaponize them. I like that phrasing.
He used them to dismantle the polished, hypocritical veneer of the celebrity establishment.
Let's talk about how that weaponization actually functioned, because John's initial role was just answering phones, right?
Yeah, basically getting coffee and answering lines.
But very quickly, Stern and his core writers, guys like Fred Norris and Jackie Marbling, realized the unbelievable utility of John's speech impediment.
And they saw the gold mine.
They did. They started sending him out to the most tightly controlled ecosystems on Earth. We're talking Hollywood red carpets, political press conferences, high society galas.
And the psychology of the Stuttering John interview is honestly a masterclass in social manipulation.
Write that down for me.
Think about the architecture of a red carpet. It is a purely transactional environment.
Right. Who are you wearing? That kind of thing.
Exactly. The celebrity walks down the line to promote a multi-million-dollar project, and the media outlet lobs a perfectly safe, pre-approved question just to get a soundbite.
Everyone knows their lines.
Exactly. It relies entirely on social grace.
But then John steps up, and as the sources point out, his physical appearance is crucial here.
Very crucial.
He isn't wearing a tailored suit. He's got long, unkempt hair. He's wearing heavy metal T-shirts.
Jeans, sneakers.
Yeah, and sometimes he's wearing an oversized overcoat or a fake mustache that looks like it came from a discount costume shop. He looks entirely out of place.
And that visual disruption is paired with the auditory disruption.
Right.
He approaches a major celebrity, and he is visibly, painfully struggling to get his words out. And this creates a social trap.
A trap.
Yeah, because if the celebrity turns their back or rolls their eyes or snaps at him, they instantly violate the core rule of public relations.
Oh, I see. Because he's struggling.
Exactly. They look monstrous. They look like they are impatiently bullying a disabled person on camera.
It's a hostage situation.
There's exactly what it is.
They are socially paralyzed.
Precisely. The celebrity is forced by societal norms to stand there, paste a polite, patient smile on their face, and wait for him to finish the question.
Wow.
Their defenses are completely lowered because they are extending empathy. And that is the exact moment the trap springs shut.
Because the questions were absolutely lethal.
Completely brutal.
Let's look at the mechanics of these interactions from the source material. We have the 1992 presidential election.
Oh, the Jennifer Flowers one.
Yes. Jennifer Flowers is holding a massive, hyper-serious news conference to play the Clinton tapes.
Right, a huge national scandal.
The National Press Corps is there. The tension in the room is incredible. And John Melendez gets the microphone.
Unbelievable.
He stutters through the setup and then asks her, completely deadpan, if she plans to sleep with any other candidates before the election.
And the environmental contrast is really what makes that function.
Yeah.
In a room full of journalists asking nuanced questions about political strategy and marital fidelity, a man in a T-shirt asks a deeply crass, puerile question.
And her reaction, she bursts into laughter.
Right, which demonstrates how the absurdity functioned as a pressure release valve for the entire room.
Or take the Dalai Lama incident we mentioned earlier in the intro.
Right. Hello, Dalai.
He asks, hello, Dalai, and the translator actually has to lean in and explain a Barbra Streisand Broadway pun to the spiritual leader of Tibet.
Which is just so bizarre to think about.
And the Dalai Lama chuckles. He takes it well, but they weren't always received warmly. He cornered Ringo Starr and asked, what did you do with the money?
And Ringo's like, what money?
Yeah, Ringo is genuinely confused, and John hits him with the punchline, "The money your mother gave you for singing lessons."
Which is a highly sophisticated, deeply cutting insult regarding Ringo Starr's vocal abilities.
So mean.
But it is delivered through this bumbling, innocent-sounding mechanism.
Right.
Ringo actually handled it brilliantly, joking that he spent the money on fish and chips. But the success of that interaction relies entirely on John's delivery.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. I look at this and I see a Trojan horse.
A Trojan horse, yeah.
John wasn't a journalist. He wasn't even really a comedian in those early days. He was just the delivery mechanism for Howard Stern's id.
Right, he was the messenger.
But the absolute brilliance of it, the reason he didn't ruin the joke, was his complete lack of pop culture knowledge.
That is a vital distinction.
Why is that so important?
Well, if you send a trained comedian to ask an offensive question, they will instinctively brace for impact.
Oh, sure.
They will smirk, they will alter their cadence, they will telegraph to the celebrity that a joke is happening.
Exactly. But John didn't know who these people were or why the questions were offensive.
He was just reading the paper.
The sources highlight an incredibly dark example of this. He approaches the actress, Ally Sheedy, and reads a question off his crumpled paper, asking if she had vomited lately.
Awful.
He delivers it with total earnest innocence. He has absolutely no idea that she is publicly battling severe bulimia.
And the cruelty of the writer's room is masked by the innocence of the messenger.
Wow.
When Sheedy becomes rightfully furious, the radio audience isn't laughing at her pain necessarily. They are laughing at the incredible tension of this oblivious kid inadvertently dropping a social nuclear bomb.
That era of the show completely revolutionized the access journalism model. I mean, it made Stuttering John a household name.
Oh, absolutely everywhere.
He became the avatar for an entire generation of cynical media consumers who were just sick of Hollywood hypocrisy.
Yeah, he was their hero in a way.
But this brings up a massive contradiction in the source material. We have this guy who is a genuine cultural phenomenon, but when we look at his actual life, the reality is entirely different.
Right, this is the illusion of visibility.
The illusion of visibility.
Yeah, the public and often performers themselves conflate being recognizable with being wealthy and powerful.
Oh, assuming famous equals rich.
Exactly. And in the mid to late 1990s, the economic reality of broadcast syndication was incredibly skewed.
Let's break down those economics because for you, the learner listening, the numbers here are staggering.
They really are.
By the early 90s, The Stern Show isn't just in New York anymore. It's syndicated in Los Angeles, Cleveland, major markets all across the country.
Massive reach.
Then, in 1994, it explodes. E! Entertainment Television starts broadcasting a nightly video version of the radio show.
Right, bringing them to television.
They are reaching 15 million viewers. John's face is in living rooms everywhere.
He achieves national basic cable penetration. He is no longer just an anonymous voice.
And he leverages that into actual mainstream pop culture success. In 1994, he signs a major label record contract with Atlantic Records.
Yeah, an actual music deal.
He releases a rock album. His music video is in heavy rotation on MTV. He's acting in feature films like Airheads, Meet Wally Sparks, and Howard Stern's autobiographical movie, Private Parts.
He is, by any standard, a famous person.
And yet, what does the source material say his actual salary was from the radio station during this peak period?
This is wild.
$20,000 a year.
$20,000 for a primary cast member on a syndicated media juggernaut.
I really need you to explain the mechanics of that to me. Because if I am acting in major motion pictures and signing deals with Atlantic Records, how is my day job paying me the equivalent of an entry-level fast food manager?
It makes no sense on the surface.
Were there no union protections? How does the station justify that?
Well, it requires understanding how radio budgets were structured in that era and the toxic concept of the exposure economy.
Big exposure.
Yeah. In terrestrial radio, the massive advertising revenue was centralized. It went to the station ownership, the syndication network, and the marquee host, in this case, Howard Stern, who was making tens of millions of dollars.
Right.
Secondary on-air talent were often classified as producers, researchers, or essentially glorified interns.
So they weren't being paid as performers?
Legally and structurally, no. The implicit agreement of the shock radio world was exploitative by design.
How so?
The show's management essentially said, "We are giving you a microphone that reaches 15 million people. We are making you famous. Your compensation is the same itself.
Ah.
It is your responsibility to figure out how to monetize that fame on the weekends."
Oh, wow. So that explains the band, the record deals, the movie cameos. He had to hustle outside the building just to survive.
But there's a massive catch.
What's the catch?
Their fame was entirely parasitic. It depended wholly on their proximity to Howard Stern.
Oh, I see.
If John left the show, the Atlantic Records deal vanishes, the MTV appearances stop. He is trapped in the gravitational pull of a sun that is simultaneously warming him and burning him.
And Stern seemed fully aware of that dynamic. He didn't just underpay John, he turned John's financial desperation and humiliation into core content for the show.
Yeah, that was the content.
John was both a celebrity and the office punching bag.
And the perfect distillation of this dynamic is the out-to-lunch incident.
I want to focus on this because it is so psychologically brutal.
He really is.
So John finally gets a tiny sliver of autonomy. The New York radio station, WXRK, gives him a localized afternoon show from noon to 1 p.m. called Out to Lunch.
Right. His own little show.
It's incredibly low stakes. He takes email requests, he plays rock songs. It takes him 15 minutes a day to tape it, but it's his.
It is a small plot of intellectual property that he can claim ownership over.
Right up until August 2003. Howard Stern decides, for whatever reason, that the show needs to end.
Just abruptly.
But he doesn't call John into an office. He doesn't have HR handle it. He turns the firing into a 45-minute live on-air bit.
Yeah, he broadcasts it.
He drags the program director into the studio to break the news to John, while millions of people listen to him lose his secondary income in real time.
It is a profound demonstration of absolute power.
Completely.
It signals to John and to the audience that John has zero agency. Every aspect of his life, his successes, his financial failures, his dignity, is nothing more than raw material to feed the daily content machine of the primary broadcast.
And you can physically see the toll this toxic environment takes. The sources outline these insane physical altercations.
Oh yeah, the fights.
In 2001, John is relentlessly mocking a gossip columnist named AJ Benza on the air about his failed late-night show. Benza gets so angry that he physically assaults John, slapping him across the face live in the studio.
Which gets Benza permanently banned.
Right. But the hostility wasn't just verbal. The threat of physical violence was a constant undercurrent.
And it escalates.
Exactly. The very next year, 2002, John gets into a petty feud with another radio DJ known as Crazy Cabby.
Right, another radio guy.
To resolve it, they don't have a conversation. They organize a sanctioned boxing match at the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City.
A literal fistfight.
They sell 2,500 tickets. They fight at 7 a.m. John actually wins by unanimous decision.
Which is wild.
But take a step back and look at the reality of this man's life. He is a 30-something father. He has acted in movies. And he's getting slapped in the face at work and fighting in boxing rooms at dawn just to maintain his spot in the social hierarchy of a radio show.
This really forces us to analyze the breaking point.
Yeah, when is enough enough?
At what juncture does the psychological cost of the humiliation outweigh the benefit of the exposure? When does a performer realize they need to escape the ecosystem that created them?
Well, the sources give us the exact moment the seed was planted. It's 2003. John makes a guest appearance on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno to promote a reality television show he was participating in.
Right, just a standard couch interview.
And Jay Leno, the king of mainstream, comfortable television, looks at John and sees an opportunity. Leno pulls him aside and offers him a job as the New York red carpet correspondent for The Tonight Show.
A monumental shift in legitimacy.
Feud.
This isn't a weekend side hustle. This is network television. This is union scale. This is real, structured money.
And John turns it down.
Yeah, he says no.
I read that in the sources and my jaw dropped. Why would you turn that down?
It's hard to believe.
According to John, he was so terrified of Howard Stern, so deeply conditioned by the power dynamics of the radio station, that he couldn't even secure a private meeting with Stern to ask for his blessing.
He was paralyzed.
He let a network TV gig evaporate because he was scared of his boss. And how does Stern react when he finds out about the offer? He goes on the air and calls Leno's idea lame.
Of course.
He openly mocks the concept that John could exist outside of the radio show.
But psychologically, that 2003 offer fundamentally altered Melendez's internal calculus.
How do you mean?
It was third-party validation. It proved to John that the mainstream establishment, the exact people he had spent a decade terrorizing on the red carpet, were now willing to write him substantial checks.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It proved he had market value.
Exactly.
And that realization turns into a powder keg. Because in early 2004, that powder keg explodes and permanently alters the landscape of late-night television.
A huge moment in TV history.
This is the moment we transition from the Wild West of radio to the corporate warfare of NBC.
And the timeline of the defection is critical to understanding the fallout here.
It is February 2004. Howard Stern goes on vacation. The studio is dark.
Everyone is off.
And while he is away, the New York Post drops a tactical nuke on the media world. John Melendez has secretly accepted the announcer position on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
Secretly.
He is replacing the legendary Ed Hall. He is packing up his family, moving to Burbank, California, and leaving radio behind forever.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of television strategy, we have to ask why Jay Leno wanted him.
Right, why him?
Leno was synonymous with safe, middle American, comfort food broadcasting. Stuttering John was the absolute antithesis of that. He was crude, aggressive, East Coast shock.
The sources note Leno's stated goal was demographic survival. He was looking at the incredibly lucrative 18 to 34-year-old male demographic. Stern owned that audience completely.
Total monopoly.
Leno thought, if I can't be edgy, I'll just buy the guy who is. He wanted to siphon off Stern's audience to boost his 11.35 p.m. ratings.
It was, in essence, an act of cultural theft.
Cultural theft.
Leno was attempting to purchase the cachet, the dangerous credibility of the shock jock world, without having to actually broadcast dangerous material.
And Howard Stern recognized the theft immediately.
Oh, he knew exactly what was happening.
When Stern returned from vacation, he didn't just express disappointment, he went absolutely nuclear.
He was enraged.
He launched a weeks-long on-air campaign berating Leno. He accused Leno of intellectual bankruptcy. To give you an idea of the vitriol Stern said on the air, to an 18 to 25-year-old male, Jay Leno is gay. He might as well put a dress on.
Which is obviously a very 2004 shock radio thing to say.
Right. Looking past the obvious homophobia of 2004 shock radio, what Stern was really saying was that Leno was completely devoid of masculine, rebellious credibility.
Stern was furious because his creative aesthetic was being sanitized and appropriated by a competitor he viewed as fundamentally unoriginal.
But Stern is also a brilliant businessman.
Very much so.
He doesn't just complain, he monetizes the betrayal. He launches a massive on-air reality contest called Win John's Job.
Which is a masterstroke of audience engagement, really.
He turns the loss of his sidekick into months of compelling content. He auditions fans, weirdos, and aspiring comedians.
A whole spectacle.
Eventually hiring Sal the stockbroker and Richard Christie, who go on to become massive figures in the show's history. Stern took the pain of the defection and spun it into gold.
But meanwhile, in California, John Melendez has to actually execute this new job.
Right, he actually has to go to work.
And the reinvention of his identity is jarring. When he debuts on The Tonight Show on March 29, 2004, the network has completely sterilized him.
I want to focus on that sterilization, because they drop the stuttering moniker entirely.
Okay.
The announcer introduces him simply as John Melendez. They put him in a tailored suit. They slick his hair back.
He looks like a completely different person.
It reminds me of a punk rock guitarist who spent 10 years playing in dive bars, suddenly deciding to join a corporate wedding band.
That's a great analogy.
Yes, the money is fantastic, the catering is top tier, and you have health insurance, but you are standing there playing covers of Celebration instead of your own music.
Yeah.
Did the suit legitimize him, or did it strip away the exact vulnerability that made him a star in the first place?
It absolutely neutralized his core appeal.
How so?
The fundamental penchant of Stuttering John was that he was an outsider crashing the elite party. By making him the announcer of The Tonight Show, Leno made him the guy officially welcoming you to the party.
Right.
The threat was gone.
And that transition is incredibly difficult, because once he is standing behind that iconic late-night curtain, John has to survive in a corporate environment that is about to undergo one of the most vicious upheavals in television history.
The late-night wars of this era are legendary for their executive mismanagement and sheer corporate panic.
Let's lay out the context for the learner, because the stakes here are in the billions of dollars.
Billions, yeah.
John is the announcer from 2004 to 2009, but when he took the job in 2004, NBC had already made a fateful ticking clock announcement.
The succession plan.
They had promised that in 2009, Conan O'Brien would take over The Tonight Show.
So Melendez accepted a job that inherently had a 5-year expiration date.
Right. And when 2009 finally arrives, absolute chaos ensues. Conan takes over at 11:35 p.m. But Jay Leno, who is still dominating the ratings, doesn't actually want to retire. He flirts with moving to a rival network like ABC.
Which terrified NBC.
So NBC executives, terrified of losing Leno, come up with what is widely considered the worst idea in modern television history. They give Leno a primetime comedy show at 10 p.m. right before the local news.
The Jay Leno Show.
Yes.
It was a catastrophic failure because it destroyed the lead-in ratings for local affiliate news broadcasts, costing local stations millions in ad revenue.
And right in the middle of this multi-billion-dollar corporate bloodbath is John Melendez.
Stuck in the crossfire.
He uprooted his family, survived 5 years in the network pressure cooker, and suddenly he has no idea if he even has a job.
The stress must have been insane.
The uncertainty is so public that Howard Stern actually uses his radio show to mockingly offer John his old $20,000 a year job back.
Ultimately, Melendez is salvaged. He is hired for the ill-fated 10 p.m. Jay Leno Show in the fall of 2009.
Okay, so he stays employed.
But there is a massive shift in his status. He is no longer the voice of the show. He is demoted to a staff writer and an occasional contributor for comedy segments.
I want to push back on the word demoted. Was it a demotion, or was it a realization that his specific skill set simply did not translate to the rhythm of network television?
Well, that's a fair point.
The sources include a very revealing quote from Jay Leno. Leno admitted that his on-air interplay with John during those first 5 years was awkward.
Yeah, awkward.
Leno said, "I'd throw to Kevin Eubanks, and I'd throw to John, and I realized that my guy is Eubanks."
That quote perfectly encapsulates the mechanical difference between radio and television comedy.
How are they different mechanically?
They require entirely different metabolisms. In the realm of shock radio, awkwardness is currency.
Right.
Dead air, stumbling over a word, genuine discomfort. That is the raw material. If John messed up reading a sponsor read on the radio, Stern would stop the broadcast, mock him relentlessly, and spin it into 20 minutes of brilliant audio.
But late-night TV cannot stop.
Exactly. It is a bullet train.
Yeah.
It requires slick, rapid-fire, highly rehearsed precision.
Mm.
If a joke bombs during a monologue, you don't pause to psychoanalyze the failure.
You just keep moving.
You immediately fire the next punchline, the band plays a musical sting, and you pivot. Leno needed a sparring partner who had an innate musical sense of rhythm.
And Eubanks had that.
Right, Kevin Eubanks, as an actual jazz musician, had that rhythm. John Melendez, whose entire comedic training was based on disruption and chaos, did not.
Which is why his transition to the writer's room makes sense. When the 10 p.m. experiment predictably imploded, and Leno ruthlessly took The Tonight Show back from Conan O'Brien in March 2010, John was kept on staff.
He survived.
But Wally Wingert was brought in to be the announcer. John spent the remainder of Leno's tenure until 2014, sitting in a writer's room pitching monologue jokes.
It is an incredible story of survival, honestly.
He navigated one of the most toxic corporate battles in Hollywood, kept his NBC health insurance, and stayed employed for a decade.
That's no small feat.
But I keep coming back to the tragic irony of it. He left the most dangerous, culturally impactful radio show in the country because he wanted to be a recognized star on television.
And he achieved it.
He did. But over a decade, the medium slowly ground him down. He went from ambushing spiritual leaders on the red carpet to sitting quietly in a cubicle writing jokes about politicians he would never actually meet.
Yeah.
Did TV tame the beast?
Well, network television is fundamentally designed to domesticate.
Right, that's what it does.
It smooths out rough edges to appeal to advertisers and a mass demographic.
Right.
Melendez traded his cultural impact for financial security.
A completely rational trade.
It is a completely rational, mature choice for a father providing for his family, but it permanently altered his trajectory as an entertainer.
And the problem with trading impact for corporate security is that corporate security eventually ends.
Right, Leno retires.
In February 2014, Jay Leno retires for good. Jimmy Fallon takes over. The massive NBC paychecks stop. The daily structure vanishes.
The bubble bursts.
And John Melendez is forced out of the safety of the network bubble and into a media landscape that has completely mutated while he was inside the internet.
This final era, from 2014 to the present day in 2026, is where we see Melendez desperately trying to apply 1990s tactics to a 2020s digital ecosystem.
The internet has completely democratized distribution. You don't need Howard Stern's syndication network, and you don't need NBC's broadcast towers.
You just need a microphone.
So in April 2018, John launches the Stuttering John Podcast. He is back behind a microphone, completely unfiltered.
Just him and his audience.
And within 2 months, he pulls off a stunt that proves he still possesses that absolute terrifying audacity.
The Air Force One incident.
Yes.
It is perhaps the most significant security breach orchestrated by a civilian podcaster in modern history.
Let's walk through exactly how this happened, because it sounds like a movie script.
It really does.
It's June 2018. John decides he wants to interview the president. He doesn't call the press office. He calls the White House switchboard and simply pretends to be an assistant to Senator Bob Menendez from New Jersey.
He just fakes it.
He uses a fake name, adopts a confident, authoritative tone, and relies entirely on social engineering.
And the mechanics of social engineering rely on exploiting human bureaucracy.
How do you mean?
By adopting the persona of a frantic assistant to a sitting senator, he bypassed the technical security apparatus because the human operators were trained to facilitate, not obstruct, congressional communications.
And it works.
Astounding.
He leaves a message, and he actually receives a call back from President Donald Trump, who is currently flying on Air Force One.
I mean, think about the level of security on that plane.
Now, I want to be very clear for the learner. We are not looking at the politics of this. We are looking purely at the mechanics of media manipulation.
Right. It is the Trojan horse strategy elevated to the highest possible geopolitical stakes.
He doesn't just hang up when the president answers. He commits to the bit.
He stays in character.
He impersonates Senator Menendez for 4 full minutes. They have a substantive conversation. They discuss immigration reform. They discuss a pending Supreme Court vacancy.
Real policy stuff.
The president even congratulates him on surviving a recent ethics investigation. The White House communications team actually had to issue a statement confirming they were duped by a podcaster.
And the real-world consequences were immediate.
Yeah, you can't just prank call the president.
Exactly. The Secret Service arrived at Melendez's home to investigate the breach, forcing him to hire high-profile attorney Michael Avenatti to navigate the federal fallout.
It proved he could still break the machine. But the podcast era isn't just about what you can broadcast. It's about who owns what you broadcast.
And this is where it gets tricky legally.
This is where John runs into a massive legal brick wall regarding his own legacy.
In August 2020, Melendez files a federal lawsuit against SiriusXM,
Right.
which is the satellite radio behemoth that became the exclusive home of Howard Stern's archives.
His argument makes complete intuitive sense to me.
Yeah, it does.
He says, SiriusXM is running channels that play old tapes of me 24/7. They are using my name, my likeness, and my voice to sell subscriptions and advertising, and I am not seeing a single dime of that revenue.
Which sounds completely unfair.
So he files the suit in federal court, leaning heavily on California's right of publicity laws, which are designed to protect celebrities from unauthorized commercial exploitation of their identities.
This raises an important question for any creator operating in the digital age. Who actually owns your persona when your persona is inextricably linked to a corporate broadcast?
And the court's answer was incredibly harsh.
Yeah, it was.
In June 2021, the federal judge dismissed the lawsuit entirely. Can you explain the mechanics of that ruling? Because if it's his voice, how does he not own it?
The ruling hinged on a legal doctrine called copyright preemption.
Okay, what is that?
The judge ruled that federal copyright law supersedes or preempts state-level rights of publicity claims in this specific context.
So the federal law wins.
Essentially, yes. The court said that SiriusXM wasn't using John's identity to endorse a new product. They were simply rebroadcasting a copyrighted sound recording that they legally possessed the rights to air. The intellectual property. The tape itself belongs to the company that produced it. The individual performer, even if they were the star of the segment, has no legal claim to the ongoing monetization of that specific piece of plastic and magnetic tape.
Wow. So because the radio station pressed record in 1992, they own that version of John Melendez forever.
Forever.
He appealed the decision, but he lost the appeal in 2022. He legally does not own his own past.
No, he hasn't.
And while he is losing the battle for his history, his present online reality is mutating into something deeply, deeply strange. Enter the Dabbleverse.
The Dabbleverse is a vital case study in modern internet sociology and the evolution of audience cruelty.
Let me set this up. Somewhere in the early 2020s, John is doing his podcast, and someone online casually remarks that he had merely dabbled in stand-up comedy over the years.
Just a throwaway comment.
John, who has always been incredibly defensive about his credentials, takes immense offense to the word dabbled.
Right.
He lashes out, and the internet, sensing blood in the water, latches onto that specific word.
This triggers the formation of an entire anti-fandom.
An anti-fandom?
Yes. An organized online community develops, calling themselves the Dabbleverse. Their entire purpose is to monitor his daily broadcasts, clip his mistakes, highlight his defensive reactions, and consume his content purely to mock him.
It's a phenomenon known as lolcow culture.
Yes. A lolcow is harsh internet slang for a creator whose eccentricities, perceived arrogance, or thin skin are continuously provoked by an audience so they can be milked for laughs.
That sounds exhausting.
The audience isn't watching out of admiration. They are watching, ironically, creating a parasitic ecosystem of secondary creators who make money simply by reacting to his failures.
And this online harassment bleeds into the real world. In August 2025, the source material notes that John filed a lawsuit against a group of these Dabbleverse podcasters.
Yeah, he takes them to court.
And the irony here is so thick you could cut it with a knife. One of the main guys he is suing is Shuli Egar, who was literally one of the guys Howard Stern hired to replace John during the Win John's Job contest in 2004.
The layers of history overlapping there are just incredible.
So John is suing them because they allegedly secretly recorded his phone calls and used his personal items as physical props to ridicule him at a live ticketed comedy event in Rochester, New York that they aggressively named DabbleCon 2.
We have to pause and look at the profound irony of that lawsuit.
It's unbelievable.
A man who built his entire legacy on ambushing people, recording them without their explicit consent, and monetizing their public humiliation, is now spending his 60s fiercely litigating against people for utilizing the exact same tactics against him.
Which culminates in the final, incredibly bleak scene from our sources.
Yeah, this is rough.
It is February 2026, just weeks ago. John is booked to headline at Rodney's Comedy Club in New York City.
Right.
He discovers that Anthony Cumia, another massive figure from the 1990s shock radio era, is sitting in the audience.
An old rival from a bygone era.
Exactly. So what does John do? He doesn't do his rehearsed stand-up act. He reverts to the muscle memory of 1992.
Oh, no.
He pulls out a stack of crumpled papers detailing Cumia's past legal issues and arrest records.
Just reading from the paper again?
And he just stands on a comedy club stage, reading these legal documents out loud to the crowd for 10 agonizing minutes.
He is trying to recreate the magic of the red carpet. He is trying to use a piece of paper to systematically humiliate an adversary in public.
But the mechanics of the room have changed. It doesn't work. The crowd isn't listening to a radio broadcast. They're sitting in a comedy club expecting jokes.
They want to laugh.
They turn incredibly hostile. The sources describe it as ending in a near riot, with the papers physically being torn from his hands by the staff.
It perfectly demonstrates the shifting context of media.
How so?
In the 1990s, punching up at an established, polished celebrity with offensive questions was viewed as an act of edgy, anti-establishment rebellion. In 2026, standing on a stage reading a man's legal history isn't comedy. It is just a sad, uncomfortable airing of grievances. The context of the medium dictates how the content is received.
So what does this all mean? When I look at this entire timeline, I see a massive 30-year boomerang.
A boomerang, yeah.
In the 90s, he was the guy antagonizing the elite for our entertainment. Today, an entire internet ecosystem exists solely to antagonize him for entertainment.
It is a cautionary tale about the half-life of a persona built entirely on disruption. But it is also a testament to sheer resilience. For better or worse, John Melendez survived the peak consolidation of radio syndication, the multi-billion-dollar bloodbath of network television, and the decentralized, hypercritical chaos of the modern podcast era.
He really did.
He constantly shape-shifted to ensure he stayed in the arena.
And for you, the learner, that is the ultimate takeaway from this deep dive. The absolute necessity of adaptability. You have to understand the mechanics of the ecosystem you are operating within, whether it's an office, a creative industry, or the internet.
You have to adapt.
But it also leaves me with a very provocative final thought for you to chew on.
The landscape has fundamentally changed.
Exactly. In today's hyper-connected, hyper-scrutinized, instantly reactive digital world, could a Stuttering John even exist?
It's a great question.
If a 20-year-old kid tried to ambush a major celebrity on a red carpet today with deeply offensive, unvetted questions, would they be rewarded with $1 million contract on The Tonight Show? Or would the PR machine instantly crush them, label them a menace, and have them forgotten in the depths of a TikTok algorithm within 48 hours?
The ecosystem that allowed that specific type of disruption to be monetized on a corporate level has been entirely paved over.
Which brings us right back to where we started. That perfectly manicured red carpet. The velvet ropes are tighter, the publicists are more aggressive, the system is still there, and it is more controlled than ever. But every now and then, it's worth remembering the guy who walked up with a crumpled piece of paper, completely broke the machine, and forced us to look at how the whole thing is built. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the media landscapes around you, and we'll see you next time.